KayFabe Smark Podcast.
Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is episode 87 of the KayFabe Smark Podcast. You're tuning in on January 20th, 2022. Make sure you guys get on over to all the social media platforms. That's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and right here on YouTube. Make sure you guys are on YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button. Share it with a friend and all of that stuff that goes along with social media so we can talk about professional wrestling with people who give a damn. Speaking of people who give a damn and talking about professional wrestling, let's see what Mr. Eric Todd is up to these days. Eric, what's happening in your world?
Oh, you know, same old. You and I had a pretty exciting weekend last weekend, Brian.
Oh, yes.
You and I went down to Detroit, Michigan, a nice little hour drive for us, and we went to the Game Changer Wrestling, whatever the hell it was called, at Harpo's.
Yes, Game Changer Wrestling was at Harpo's in Detroit. Not downtown Detroit. We were in the neighborhoods of Detroit. We were at Harpo's. We were off of Harper and Van Dyke area. That's the hood for anybody that does not know. Not the best side of town, but nonetheless, it was an interesting event. It was, well, let's just say it was poorly produced for a live audience, and but the wrestling was okay. If anybody doesn't know, Harpo's is in a big, huge old theater, and the wrestling was on the main floor, like where you'd be at for a concert. And so the tiered areas in the back for the general admission were, you couldn't see the ring. It was terrible. The setup was for the birds. It was the shits. But nonetheless, the wrestling was okay.
Yeah, the setup there, basically, Harpo's is a huge venue for a concert club or whatever. But if you wanted to see the ring at all, you had to be crammed into about 1/3 of the venue. So
Yeah.
all the tickets they sold, people were just crammed, assholes and elbows. Multiple people claiming they got COVID over on the Squared Circle subreddit. But we did get to see some Detroit legends. We saw Kevin Nash. We saw Sabu. We saw Alex Shelley.
Yeah.
We saw Rhino. What's that cat from NXT from Detroit who was the
Leon.
he was a
Leon Rush?
yeah, Leon Ruff.
Ruff. Yeah, Ruff.
He was a North American champion or something over there in NXT.
Yep.
So yeah, a lot of Detroit hometown wrestlers popped by for the GCW show and wasn't too bad.
No, it was okay. I don't know. I would go see another Game Changer Wrestling event, but I will skip the next one in April at Harpo's.
100%.
They need to rearrange it and have it at a different venue somewhere else, but Harpo's is not it. You don't have the ring in a hole where you can't see anything. I'm 5'6" if I'm lucky, and I couldn't see nothing 3 rows back from the general admission area. It's like, okay, I didn't pay for $30 to get in this to see nothing. So we stood on the stairs and got yelled at every 15 minutes by the ushers saying we couldn't stand on the stairs, but we shrugged our shoulders and stood on the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nonetheless. But decent show. And other than that, pretty chill week. Same old, just as I say every week.
That's it, man. Just trying to thaw out here in the frozen tundra of Michigan that it is. Well, I say we just get started with the show. Enough of the formalities here. Usually you kick us off with some news. Do you have some wrestling news for us?
I do have a little bit of news. So if we wind up our arms right here, slap that ticker, we can get right into it.
Eric has scoured the dirt sheets. He's hit the Squared Circle subreddits. It's time for Eric to bring us the news. What do you got for us?
Oh, Safe Space Dave Meltzer dipping his toes in the Jim Cornette waters there with a
Oh, boy.
insensitive joke, Brian Rampa. The latest Wrestling Observer newsletter came out, and Dave Meltzer, it was talking about Saudi Arabia hosting the Elimination Chamber, and his comment on that event happening was, and I quote, "I guess they decided to book the chamber in Saudi Arabia because Auschwitz has COVID restrictions this month," end quote. I ain't gonna lie, I find that kind of funny. I don't find Meltzer funny usually, but it's kind of funny, and he's Jewish, so he can say it.
I find cringe humor funny. It's inappropriately funny. I can say it's inappropriate. It's 100% inappropriate, but inappropriate can be funny. So can being mean. Call me crazy, but I find that shit funny. So it is what it is, and I find it funny.
Yeah, so obviously the internet wrestling community, super sensitive people these days. They went bananas on old Dave, and Dave had to back down and apologize. And he immediately released a statement, and it says, "As someone who's lost multiple family members in the Holocaust, I take it beyond seriously. The line was to bring up the question of using the term elimination chamber in Saudi Arabia. Obviously, it was meant as a message, but I apologize for those who were offended by it."
Well,
So good old Dave trying to stay in everybody's good graces.
just go back to giving the Young Bucks 16 stars out of a 5-star match, and they'll love you again.
This is big news in the wrestling world this week. AEW TNT champion Cody Rhodes is currently a free agent. He is not under contract with AEW at this time, as his contract expired at the end of 2021. As for why he's not with or signed to AEW at the moment, the rumor seems to be he's just been busy. He's been doing stuff with the Go Big show. He's been doing stuff with his show with Brandy. He's been all over the place, and he hasn't really been at a AEW show in a while. And this one that just passed on Wednesday was his first show since, I think, mid-December, something like that.
Yeah, when he took the TNT title back, but then he got COVID and whatever else happened. But yeah, I think people make a bigger deal out of this than it is, because AEW is very open format, if you will. They're like the Android. They're the Android operating system of wrestling. You can just come and go as you please. WWE, they're like iOS, baby. You got to be in the gang or you're not in it at all. But it doesn't really matter. It's not that big a deal. Does his office position have a contract as well?
No idea on that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still involved with the company. He's still going to be around. He clearly showed up. He's going to it just creates a buzz. It could all be a work. So he didn't sign a contract yet. He's going to show up. He's on a handshake agreement. He's going to show up. Then when he signs the contract, it'll be a big, you know, like there was people rumored going, he's going to go through the forbidden door to WWE and go be a one-time participant in the Royal Rumble. It's like, I didn't see that one so much unfolding, but all these people going nuts about it, and it just didn't seem to make much sense to me of how big of a deal they made it.
And why everyone's going bananas over it is beyond me, because Cody did have a quote in a recent interview, a very recent interview, that says, "As of now, my future's with AEW. AEW would be very strange without the core members of the Revolution. We all still talk. We all have this admiration for each other. I can't see myself anywhere else, and I'm very optimistic about what the future holds." So he's all in, excuse the pun there. But yeah, I just think he's been too busy. He didn't have time to have his lawyers go over a contract. Big deal.
Big deal. They'll figure it out. It's not. He's not bouncing because he's not going to go anywhere else. Or he's trying to get things put into a contract. Who cares? You know, trying to get extra things. Maybe he wants to go back and do some New Japan shit or whatever. So he's getting some dates added in. Anyways, I don't even really know if I consider that news. I just hated it so much on the internet this week that it bothered me.
Old WWE running rampant with name changes. We all know Walter. We all love Walter from NXT UK. And old Walter's going to be spending the majority of his time in the U.S. now, and WWE, they don't want him using a name that he had on the indie scene.
God
They don't want
bless.
him making his own money. So WWE decided to change his name after his most recent victory on NXT, and Walter will now be known as Gunther. Now that in itself, not big news. What the news was this week, and had a few people chuckling and a few sensitive people very upset, was that WWE filed a trademark for the name Gunther Stark on January 13th under the Entertainment Services classification at the Patent Office. And if you Google Gunther Stark, you will see that he was a military U-boat commander for the Nazis in World War II.
Wow, you thought you would have followed this news bit up after Dave Meltzer's news bit.
Yeah, no shit. But since then, there has been a little update on it. WWE went ahead and abandoned that trademark request for Gunther Stark.
We'll just
so
stick
it's
with
safe
Gunther.
to say Walter's just going to be Gunther.
Or Walter. I
Chris
never,
Jericho- oh,
I
I'm
never, I
sorry.
was just gonna say, I never understood them in the intellectual property so hard in the WWE that it's just like that big a deal that if they had a name somewhere else, and the thing is, I can kind of get if you're coming in from company A and you're joining WWE, and they readjust your name, but to have been essentially part of the WWE machine in some aspect for the last several years, in and out of NXT US, NXT UK, and now they're like, your name's Gunther. What? It's not like we haven't
Exactly,
heard
it's
of
just
him.
What?
Like it's
Everyone knows who he is, yeah.
that's just the weird part to me, but we can continue on. I just don't get what that point of that is.
And I didn't even write down this news bit, but it just kind of fits here. While WWE was just on a filing trademark spree, they went ahead and filed the trademark for Brock Lesnar for merchandising. So even the guy's birth name that's on his birth certificate and it's on all his trophies from Minnesota and whatnot. Oh, WWE's trying to say, no, we own it. We own it.
We own
Anything says Brock Lesnar is ours.
They're trying to Disney-fy this thing, and it's gonna come back to bite him in the ass. But
I hope it does. Chris Jericho. At this point, Brian, Chris Jericho is just throwing shit at the wall and just hoping something sticks. We remember from last week's episode of AEW Dynamite when Jericho told old Eddie Kingston to GFY, and for some reason that took off. People, oh my God, GFY. Well, Chris Jericho has filed a trademark for GFY. And he's going to try and make money off of that acronym.
Yes, I saw that he launched a T-shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees with a GFY on there, so I'm not sure if AEW's got their paws in that or how the merchandising goes, but if he's filing the trademark on it, he'll at least get the big chunk of the cash flow on that.
And after this week's episode of Dynamite, I don't know why Jericho just didn't say the real phrase last week. Apparently, you can say anything on TBS.
Yeah, or say it again this week. He acronymed it this week, too, and you're going, you opened up the show with an F-bomb, but we'll get to that when we leave the news.
We will. And our final story of the week here, unless you've got some lined up, sad news. Don West, very respected in the wrestling community by everybody. Don West has revealed that his cancer has returned. He posted the news on his Twitter account on Tuesday with the quote, "Unfortunately, my cancer is back and I'm undergoing chemo. Thanks to all that have contributed in the past. And if you'd like to donate, the GoFundMe page is Join the Don West Tag Team Against Lymphoma. God bless." Don West was diagnosed with brain lymphoma in June of last year and went into remission last September, but sadly it is back.
Ouch. Don West. Remember him screaming on TNA all the time.
Oh, yeah. Love me some Don West. I remember you and I going to, whatever the hell that show was. It was TNA. What was their big? It was basically their WrestleMania.
Was it? It wasn't Slammiversary, was it?
No. Hell, I can't remember. It was in Plymouth, Michigan, whatever
Sure.
it was, but it was one of their big pay-per-view events, and you and I just turned our backs on the ring and were just staring at Don West, and what was the other guy that was there?
Mike Tenay.
Yeah, Mike Tenay.
Just blinking,
staring at him,
dead facing him, just dead facing him and blinking. I mean, we're 5 rows off the rail from on the main floor, but that was only 1 row in front of like. We had a main shot right at the commentators' booth, so we were the first row at the commentators, and just me and you just staring, trying to make them break while they're calling a live pay-per-view.
and they were obviously uncomfortable.
Yes, it was great. I also remember Don West trying to sell me sports cards back in the 90s on late night TV. We got your Michael Jordan rookie cards. We're going to open up a box of Don Ross right now. We're throwing it in, people. It's $9.95.
I completely forgot that was Don West.
You remember now, right? You remember watching that?
Yep, I do.
Oh,
Yep.
my God. He's like, we're going to open this up. This has got a Larry Bird rookie in this one. Be dialing, people. Be dialing.
Well, that does it for my news. Trolling Don West, and life's trolling him too, poor guy.
Love Don West. That's the news. And let's get into the show now. Poor Don West has cancer. Make sure you guys head on over and support Don West on his GoFundMe. And Walter is now known as Gunther, so we got that going for us. And that was the KayFabe Smark News. Well, as you can see by Eric's background, it's time for a little
Let's Play Overrated or Underrated with Eric Todd.
That's right, we're playing Overrated, Underrated with Eric Todd. We are going to do Overrated or Underrated factions. We're going to talk factions in this one. I think we may have done a factions one before, but you never know. I can't remember this. It's been 87 episodes, people. So we're going to do Overrated, Underrated, the Four Horsemen. Now, you can overrate them and underrate them from across the board. There was several iterations of the Four Horsemen. How do you feel about the Four Horsemen? Overrated or underrated?
Oh man, in its original form, or in its first few original forms, even the Four Horsemen was a very innovative faction there, a group that blazed trails all through the wrestling world, but so many people want to recreate the Horsemen, whether they name it Evolution or throw something else on it. Everybody wants to recreate the Horsemen, and you even to this day will have Tully and Arn on TBS hinting at reuniting the Four Horsemen, and it's just been ran into the ground, unfortunately. But in its original form and first couple mutations, Four Horsemen is definitely underrated.
Oh, yeah. I'd have to give underrated as well. Now, let's see what you think of a faction from WWE, WWF, overrated or underrated, the Oddities.
Come and see the greatest show. I think the Oddities could have worked. With I don't know what they could have done to make it work, but something was there. Luna Vachon, probably one of the top 5 most talented women to ever be in the wrestling world. You had John Tenta after he lost a lot of weight. You had Giant Silva,
Kurgan,
and Kurgan, and they were the freak shows, and this was the 90s, and everything seemed to be there. And then they were led to the ring by the Insane Clown Posse, who were incredibly hot in the late 90s. And
I mean, what more do you want?
Unfortunately, it seemed like all the ingredients were there for at least the younger fans and the Outcast fans, the Outcast wrestling fans back then, the ones who weren't wearing NWO shirts all the time and Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts. Seemed like a place for all them to gather together and be an oddity. So I feel the ingredients were there, but it just fizzled like a fart. And yeah, the oddities just flopped like a fat titty, and the outcome of it was, even if you liked them a little bit, you're overrating them. They were overrated.
Even if you liked them a little bit. I mean, they did make the cover of the WWF magazine. They do have that going for them.
It's on my wall, Brian.
Yes, it is.
It's like September '98 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I got a copy of it framed around here somewhere as well. Overrated, underrated. The No Limit Soldiers from WCW. Having a little fun this week.
No Limit Soldiers. I thought I told. I don't want to get flagged on YouTube. There.
I mean,
I know I sound pretty much like Master P. You know,
sound like P
But,
and Silk.
unfortunately, in that era, any new faction of celebrities that came into WCW would be grossly overrated, and Master P and the No Limit Soldiers were not immune from that. Overrated, even if you liked them a little bit. More overrated than the oddities.
All right, let's take it back to this one now, a little more serious. And again, a couple iterations of this one, so you can go with any of them or all of them. Overrated, underrated, D Generation X.
DX is on the level of Four Horsemen. I know I would be crucified by some wrestling fans out there, but as far as blazing trails and opening up doors and ushering in a new style of going against the grain, DX was unmatched. And so no matter what you say, they're underrated.
Yeah, any of the iterations too. Just Shawn and Hunter as singles. Then you had Hunter, X-Pac, the Outlaws, China, that whole thing. That was amazing because with what they did with the Nation and everything. And then the third and last iteration of them, which was DX as a tag team with Shawn and Hunter, that was just as fun as well. So they were always fun, and what they did for wrestling and how they changed it was amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, here we go. Last one, overrated, underrated, Evolution.
Oh, we mentioned Evolution earlier, and Evolution, I think, was one of the most underrated factions in WWE history because the ingredients were absolutely perfect. You had the Nature Boy Ric Flair, you had Triple H, you had Randy Orton, who is by far my favorite performer in the wrestling business right now, and you had Dave Bautista, who became one of the biggest stars ever, and it just wasn't quite cooked right. You had the ingredients, but it just wasn't quite cooked right, or the vegetables weren't ripe, not to call Batista and Orton vegetables. But two of the ingredients just weren't quite ripe yet and ready to go. And yeah, I think just a little of the timing, a little of the booking was off, but overall that was a faction that was untouchable if done right. So I think they were underrated.
Would you say two of the members of the Evolution were a little green in that era?
Fits right into the vegetable gimmick right there. Yeah. Green as a pepper tree.
Yes, sir. All right, that's overrated, underrated factions. Having a little fun talking about that. Now we're going to get in and break down, per usual, a little AEW and their show last night. Whatever you want, just AEW Dynamite. This one didn't have a name. I didn't know how to introduce it. I got lost there in my own words.
Oh, yeah, because we got Leech on the Beach next week or wherever the hell. What is it? Beach Bash?
Beach Bash.
I was genuinely confused, Brian, because Cassidy's got the beach break. So I'm like, well, fuck, it's not the beach break. Is it Bash? It's not Bash at the beach. It's Beach Bash, right?
Bitch at the beach.
I'm a bitch at the beach.
All right.
I don't know. We got some sort of special pay-per-view, non-free pay-per-view coming up next week.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the beach.
The AEW free preview in Ohio. They're having the Bash at the Beach, I believe it was. So, Ohio's known for their beaches.
Yeah, right there on Lake Erie, you just kick the dead fish and toxic waste out of the way, and you just go ahead and get yourself a little tan.
Yeah. So we open up the show. I mean, it's been put all over social media what was going down opening up the show. Jon Moxley.
Yes, the big return, the big anticipated return of Jon Moxley, and we have not seen Jon Moxley on television since October 27th. So it's been a couple months for him, and he's looking pretty lean and clean, Brian Rappa.
Lean and clean. Kicked the alcohol, dropped some water weight, brought the puffiness down. He's looking good, feeling good. He was full of piss and vinegar last night. He was head bobbing and bouncing all around the ring like a caged tiger of some kind. I couldn't tell what was going on with him, but he had all kinds of energy. And, well, he opened up the show with a big F-U to the crowd.
He did, and it sounded like the quote that came from a very bold member of the AEW audience last night, where they said, "Get that trash out of the ring," referring to Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley's response to this fella was, "Hey, go fuck yourself. Get that guy out of here, piece of shit." And JR with the, "Well, he hasn't changed much." And this and this just kind of made me cock my head like a confused pit bull, Brian, because they're obviously, even if they're live, they're on a delay.
Sure.
So they could have bleeped it. But is this what we're in now? They started with the dropping as many shits as possible on AEW TV, but can we just drop F bombs on TBS now? Is this the norm? I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't bother me. And I even have kids that'll probably be watching TV when I'm watching wrestling, but it does not bother me. I think if overdone, I don't know what the laws and regulations are for what you're allowed to say or how many you're allowed to say or what the time frame is that you're allowed to say these things, but I don't really care.
No, there are no laws or FCC or anything like that does not have any say in this, since you do pay for cable channels. The cable channels regulate it all.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't positive. But so the cable channels essentially can say it. They just all chose not to.
Right, because you want to keep the sponsors happy. So what it'll come down to is, I think maybe this was just a little experiment. We'll see if any sponsors pull out of that time slot on TBS. I doubt it. We're kind of in a newer time now, and I don't think too many people that are watching TBS at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night are going to be terribly offended by an F-bomb or two coming through.
Yeah, who cares? But this whole thing, Jon Moxley coming out, pacing around the ring, telling stories of having a dream of demons over his head, and he was in the desert with mud on his face, and he was all over the place. At the end of the day, he said nothing.
What this came off as to me, Brian, was it sounded like a motivational speaker, a deranged motivational speaker at a 12-step program. Believe in yourself. Nobody can hold you down. Everybody has scars. Even if the scars are on the inside and you're hiding them, be proud of your scars. It was just a deranged, inspirational 12-step program speech. And it was all just cliche bullshit that we've heard from everybody. So yeah, essentially it was a waste of time, and I don't think he really said anything. He ended with, "I'm thirsty, and these days all I drink is blood."
Yeah, like they didn't even go the classic wrestling route of, I'm going to come out and cut a promo that I'm happy to be back, the crowd's chanting Moxley, and then you didn't hear the, and I'm using an example, I know he's in a program right now with CM Punk, but the na-na-na, 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 and MJF comes out and interrupts him and talks shit, right? What's this guy doing back here? Oh, he's the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. And then they could have had a war of words. There's nothing. It was just, they just gave Moxley, 5, 8, 10 minutes in the ring to wander around, ramble. Nobody gave him a script. I know AEW, again, we've spoken this before, and there's them and their scripts, but my God, give bullet points. get something accomplished while you're out there on live TV. People pop just to pop because he was there, but at the end of the day, nothing happened. He didn't challenge nobody. Nobody challenged him. I don't know what's going on.
I think this is an indie thing, Brian. So indie wrestling fans will get attached to an indie star and they feel connected to him. So I don't know if they want to be recognized or what, but it's the Wayne's World. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. And you just over respect and lick the balls of your favorite indie wrestler as a fan to feel that connection. And I think Tony Khan's still in that niche right there. And Tony Khan wants to, and John Moxley, let's face it, he's an indie star. He was in WWE, he's in AEW now, but he gained his stardom on the indie scene. And I think this was just, hey, he overcame his alcoholism for now, and let's worship John Moxley and just let him do whatever the hell he wants in the ring, and we'll just kiss his ass.
I guess luckily that the crowd isn't on our side, my side. I'm assuming you're on my side. You usually are in this type of situation. Just plant a seed. Why am I watching Rampage? It didn't even come out. I'll fast forward through the whole end of the show here, people, and as we're on this topic, they didn't come up with a challenge really for the whole thing at Rampage or for Rampage. Like,
or for Bash at the Beach or
Bash
whatever
the
the hell
Beach or Rampage or wherever he wants to fight. Like, nothing was sold for the next show. And to me, it's all a selling. You are selling for the next thing. And just got to be happy he's going to come out and dance around a wild thing again by the Trogs. Like, that's...
Yeah, I don't know. He basically cut a trail in the ring. He just would not stop moving. It was like he was expecting a sniper to take him out. The guy would not stop moving. So yeah, this first segment, it was brutal, and I get it. Everybody wants an inspirational speech nowadays, but I don't want an inspirational speech from my wrestlers. Just get out there, do your thing, talk shit, issue challenges, and fight. That's what you're there to do.
Yeah, there was no drama involved in it, and that's the part that lost me. But we could talk about this probably till the end of the show. We shall move on and talk about the next thing, which was an amazing tag team match.
Oh, you wish, Brian. First things first, we're going to the back, baby, because we got MJF and Wardlow.
Oh, I always forget about the go to the back segments. Lead me. Oh, yes, I remember now. They went to the back, and MJF he's docking Wardlow's pay because he was a jerk and put his hands on him.
Right. We get the tease that maybe MJF is turning over a new leaf. It's Wardlow's birthday. MJF sincerely apologizes for going off the handle last week. But, Brian, we can't set a bad precedent. MJF has to dock Wardlow's pay for pushing him. But once he wins that ladder match or whatever the hell kind of match it is, and MJF gets his title, he'll get that money back. But MJF is confident that Sean Spears will get the job done and do what Wardlow couldn't do last week.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you. You're not going to have an answer because you're going to hate this as much as I do already. The AEW Indie Mark fan, right, knows everything about the business, or at least quotes that they know everything about the business. Why are we still trying to we give away everything else? Why are we still trying to sell that MJF is the one that pays Wardlow and that he's not under an AEW contract that pays him?
This is the thing I don't get, Brian. So when fans like you or myself say we want believable wrestling, the Squared Circle subreddit, the indie wrestling fans, the internet wrestling community shouts back at us, why are you so worried about believable wrestling? We all know it's fake. We all know it's set up. We're all in on the joke.
So we get the Orange Cassidy kick segment again. We get the joke segments, all of that, everything that goes with it, and the terrible setup
we
for
get
spots.
that because we all know it's set up. But then we get segments like this one where they're trying their best to make us think that MJF is the one paying Wardlow, or that Layla Hirsch is really attacking Chris Statlander in the back. Why are you trying so hard on these goofy, cartoony segments to convince us that those are real, but the wrestling is not important whatsoever?
Right. So we go back to the heyday of when we were kids, and we thought that Jimmy Hart really had the Hart Foundation, and he was in charge of all of them, and Bobby the Brain had people under contract.
Andre the Giant,
and
Bobby
we were like,
owned Andre the Giant.
Right. He had a contract with him, and he was his guy. And, you bought it then, but you also bought the wrestling then, and the fighting then.
Right.
And it
they
was
presented the whole product as real.
So then now it's not, and it's a show, but then we got to watch segments where this, and then later in the show you get the Hardy family thing with Andrade. Again, there's a board of directors for this stupid faction, and they have a business. You work for a company, and you already admit you work for a company because you can't go work for another company because you work for this company. And I don't care what Tony Khan says, you can go work for any company. He just keeps you busy enough where you can't. It's all a ploy, really.
Right. If you can have goofy fake wrestling where everybody's helping each other do all the moves, why waste your time with segments? Just make the whole thing a gymnastics show. We don't believe that MJF owns Wardlow, so why waste your time on it? Of course, I'm being ridiculous at this point.
Yes.
But why one and not the other? It's simple.
I would rather see him go super 98, 99 attitude era and over the top, real soap opera, who's dating who, filling up cars with cement, somebody gives birth to a hand type thing. I'd rather see him just go way out there in left field if they're going to go completely goofy. Don't try to make me believe that MJF pays Wardlow. Don't try to make me believe that the Hardy family office is now merged with Andrade and that there's a 49%, 51% split in the company and there's a board on the daily operations and you're the president. Go fish. Get out of here. That shit sucks. Now we can talk about a shitty tag team match.
I was going to say now we can talk about some professional wrestling, but unfortunately we can't because we're talking about Adam Cole and Brit Baker taking on the likes of Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander. And oh boy, Brian, this match was the worst. Before we get into the actual match, this is going to be rough. This is hard for me to say, and it's going to be hard for you to hear, Brian, but Adam Cole is shrinking every week. He gets smaller and smaller and flabbier and flabbier. At this point, he looks like he's about 5'4", and he's just a bowl of mush at this point. He's starting to look like heel Josh, to be honest. Orange Cassidy, for Christ's sake. Orange Cassidy is bigger and more muscular than Adam Cole right now. And I want my superstar, Adam Cole, back.
These are just purely speculation. Purely speculation. Don't sue me. Purely speculation. Do you think he was on a little bit of the gas through the WWE?
To be honest with you, Brian, I don't think so. I don't think he was gassed up.
Even legal gas. Even legal gas. I'm not saying he was breaking any laws and rules.
What I think happened is he got over here to a company that has no rules, no structure, nobody telling him that you have to work out and go to the gym. And now he's just, for the time being, I think he'll snap out of it. He's only been here a couple months. I think he's just having fun with his friends, enjoying time with his girlfriend Brit Baker, and playing video games and just being lazy.
Shit got away from
with you.
All right. Well, it was just speculation. Just speculation. I ain't trying to get sued by Adam Cole now. Don't need that on my resume. But yeah, his physique has changed a bit. This was a tough match for me to shit on because I'm an Adam Cole fan. I'm a Brit Baker fan. This had the possibilities of being good because you got two of them on a team together here. Now, I know they're taking on Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy, so you got what we would consider great versus shit, but the whole thing came out as a big fart.
Right. You've got one of the top female workers in the business right now, who's probably trained by her boyfriend and Johnny Gargano. So she's trained pretty well. You got Adam Cole. You got Orange Cassidy, who's indie-rific, but he can move and he can do shit. We've seen shit here and there. You got Chris Statlander, who can also do some stuff here and there, but greener than frog shit. And so yeah, this thing was a gamble. It was a roll of the dice. But when two of the first three moves in a professional wrestling match, Brian, are a spot of Orange Cassidy fake kicks on Britt Baker and a nose boot from Chris Statlander, how can you do anything but pull down your pants and take a big fat shit all over this match?
I know I've complained and I've liked both the kicks from Orange Cassidy. I halfway don't mind them in an opening 1 minute spot in the match. Opening, you have 1 minute to get it in, because it's like that squared, your nose to nose, that old thing, and this and that. So he throws some kicks and does like a little taunting thing. I can get past it. Now it's really when he shoves him in the middle. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. Tried to cut the audio so I didn't blow anybody's earballs out. But it's when they throw that stuff in the middle that really drives me nuts. So the opening segment of the kicks didn't bother me too much. The nose boop is I could deal without that.
Oh, and it seems to get worse from there. At one point, Orange Cassidy completely breaking character. He never talks. Cassidy never talks. But all of a sudden, Brian, he and Statlander are on the ring apron, and Orange Cassidy shouts at the top of his lungs, "Statlander, double team move."
Yeah.
I don't understand the point of that. Was he mocking ring talk? I
don't know.
If you're going to be the goofy, silent, don't give a F character,
don't give an F.
Why are we breaking? Yeah, why are we breaking character right there? And then so that was the first part of it. And then the move itself has Britt Baker having to just stand still on the outside of the ring so that she can wait for Chris Statlander to backflip onto her. And then Orange Cassidy just falls onto Adam Cole. And Excalibur at this point is laughing out loud. This is supposed to be.
Now, they just sold us that Wardlow is really being paid by MJF, and it's real.
And now we have the markiest commentator laughing out loud at a move by one of their top stars, and is just having a great time giggling and laughing while Orange Cassidy jogs around the ring. Chris Statlander botches a backbreaker on Britt Baker, and JR says, "Oh, that was quite an interesting variation." JR,
God bless.
No fucks. He will shit all over this.
He's trying to push through. Back to the double team move thing there. I get the quote irony of the joke that was there, where it was like she can do this standing moonsault backflip to crush Britt Baker, and he just falls. But again, the setup and the whole thing, like, so it was like this really awesome move, and then just this like, oh, look at me, I fell. But I don't understand how you sold it with the energy of like, Statlander, double team move, and then you went from that excitement to I just fall over onto Adam Cole. Like, Adam Cole could catch you. Britt Baker should have stepped out of the way of the backflip. That would have made the whole thing funnier, that their double team move failed drastically. That would have been hilarious to me. But I thought that was garbage too. I did not care for it. I understood what they were going for, the yin and yang of the opposites here, but and then that backbreaker nonsense was bad. That was like Botch City when they were rolling and fumbling and stumbling all over the ring.
Oh, it was rough. And and then we see almost directly after the backbreaker botch, we see Chris Statlander. She takes out Britt Baker. Britt's down selling. Chris Statlander runs all the way across the ring at a downed Adam Cole to blow raspberries at him. And at this point, the crowd is yucking it up. They just find it absolutely hilarious that Statlander runs over to Adam Cole and gives him the old the and then at that point, that's just where it clicked. Adam Cole is a professional wrestler, and the goal of this match is comedy. That is the main priority of this match is let's see how many laughs we can get. Let's see if we can pop excrement and make them giggle. Let's see if we can make the crowd laugh. And there's places for that, and there's promotions for that. And those promotions aren't on TV because they fucking blow. Why are we putting this on national television?
Even if you're going to put this on national television, there's other people for this. Adam Cole being one of your top stars, Britt Baker being your top woman, aren't the opposite opposing people for Statlander and Orange Cassidy to have a comedy gimmick with. Now you throw them in there, you make this Johnny Hungy and Anna Jay. Who cares? It's funny. Then it's funny. You go, okay, none of this makes sense. It doesn't matter. Ha 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 ha. They're being idiots. And that's how you open up your show. I would still say your opening segment of your show was trash, but at least you're not watering down anybody else in the way. You're taking the people that
you're not
wanna be
watering
there.
down somebody who was a serious reigning NXT champion,
Who is
top
your
of his game.
Who is your women's champion?
Adam Cole has been completely watered down, and I don't know if hopefully he turns shit around and he realizes by seeing Punk and by seeing Danielson and by seeing MJF, hopefully something clicks in Adam Cole's head, because right now I think he's just coasting. He's just like, oh, the fans love me. I can do whatever I want. I can get fat and lazy and do comedy spots with Orange Cassidy.
Yeah. Don't have to break my body for him, so we'll continue. Is any other spots in this match? Anything else good?
We get a lot of Britt Baker and Chris Statlander trying to wrestle. They're trying to get their spots in. Everything is just extremely slow, extremely clunky. And I don't want to blame it on Britt Baker, but I've seen Chris Statlander wrestle her ass off, so I'm imagining it just was not good chemistry between these two.
Yeah.
They are clunking all over the place.
I don't think it helped that, like, with the random, and I know it's all spots and setup, but like the random in and outs, like Orange Cassidy's in, that means Adam Cole's in. Chris Statlander comes in, that means Britt Baker has to get in, and it's like there's no working into a tag situation. It was just the other person. You know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of threw off the flow for me watching it. So it seems like it might throw off the flow for being in a match like that.
Yeah, half the time they weren't even tagging. It just seemed like, oh, Orange Cassidy's in now, so we gotta. I don't know. The chemistry and the flow was just all over the place. We see Chris Statlander on the top rope, Adam Cole covering Britt Baker. They both catch a 450 splash from Statlander, and she can fly. That was a good move right there.
That's
we get
Area 451 splash.
Oh,
because she's an alien.
My apologies,
you silly goose.
We get a beach break from Orange Cassidy on Adam Cole. Orange Cassidy, here we go, Brian. Just let the botches flow. Orange Cassidy attempts a dive over the top rope to the outside on Adam Cole, who's standing on the ramp, catches his foot or knee or something on the top rope, and falls about 3 feet short of where his mark should have been. And poor Adam Cole has to... I'm sure the super kick was worked in there, but man, that was botchy and ugly. And Orange Cassidy, you fly, you do fake kicks, and you do catch me spots. and now you're fucking up your catch me spots.
Yeah.
What do you have left to fall back on?
You only got a couple things here, guy. And if you start to screw up your fake kicks in the early part of the show here, you're gonna really shit the bed on the rest of this thing. So I'm with you. This thing, I just didn't care about it. I didn't care that they were fighting. I didn't care last week that they challenged him. I didn't care this week that it was gonna happen, that it was the first match of the show. I didn't care while I was watching it, and I could have gave a shit less who won it by the end of it. Like, none of it drew me in. Didn't care on many, many levels.
And that's the thing, is they are just shoving every indie overused trope you can think of into this match. We get back-to-back Canadian destroyers. We're supposed to believe that Chris Statlander took a Canadian destroyer on the ramp, and she's perfectly fine later on because she does an interview. And, I think she's holding her head. This is an hour and a half later, and she's doing an interview with her hand on her head. We get the Panama Sunrise from Adam Cole on Orange Cassidy. Cassidy kicks out. Wasn't that a devastating move over in NXT? Didn't that put Pat McAfee down?
Yeah, I believe it won him championships and the likes. So, won War Games and things like that.
So that's not enough, Brian. We can't get finisher from Cassidy, finisher from Cole, back-to-back Canadian destroyers. Now we have to get a table involved. And now we have Brit Baker, Adam Cole setting up a table. Brit Baker standing on the apron. Orange Cassidy bumping into Brit Baker inadvertently and just watching her fall backwards like she's falling into a pit of pillows and just gently falling through this table. And she's selling like she got shot with a fucking grenade launcher.
Now, I don't take too much out on Brit for this one. She's not a table spot person. She's never been there
Which
before.
means she shouldn't have did it.
Which means she shouldn't have did it, but, you got to do your job if you're told that's what's going down. It was bad all around. I'm just saying, like, she's not a table spot person. She was the wrong person that should have been there. You could see it coming from a mile away. Like, she all of a sudden, Adam Cole rushes back in the ring. She stays on the outside. Then she slowly climbs up. And then you're just thinking, like, she's going through the table. And then she does. And then the whole Adam Cole doesn't really care to go help her. He takes advantage of the rest of the match, gives Orange Cassidy a low blow to the nuts, whatever his knee strike to the back of the head is called, and then the boom shot, boom shakalaka, and then calls the ref back in the ring for the 1, 2, 3. So,
and then we circle back to the beginning of the show. We saw every fake convoluted move we can think of in this match, and every overused trope we can think of in this match, but we're supposed to believe that Adam Cole is absolutely furious at Orange Cassidy, where an hour and a half later he's screaming at Orange Cassidy. We're supposed to believe that after watching the fakest bump, fakest table bump ever in wrestling history. Now we're supposed to believe that Adam Cole is absolutely furious at Orange Cassidy.
Andrew pops in the chat over here. He says, speaking of believability in wrestling in AEW, Britt goes through hell in a lights-out match with Thunder Rosa in 2021, but is taken out of the match with Cassidy and Statlander by going through one table.
And she wasn't even put through the table.
No, she just
fell gently through it.
Laid on top of it, and it happened to collapse. One of the legs unfolded.
Maybe she got a little scared watching Ray Fenix bend his arm backwards.
Yeah.
And
just took
supposedly he's supposed to be back in mid-February, by the way, after his arm basically came off.
He lost his arm like a G.I. Joe in a sandbox in kindergarten.
So yeah, that was that, Brian. Oh my God, what a tough first match to get through.
Yeah, and then we get we go backstage? I always miss the backstage.
We're going backstage, Brian. We got some good news here. We got Jericho, who now his hair is brown. He's had blonde hair for the entire 30 years of his career. Then he went gray because he was forgetting to dye it. Now he's dyeing it with 1040 motor oil.
Put some soy
And,
sauce in there. A little soy saucing.
and we get to see Proud and Powerful speak, and they very eloquently put it that Jericho doesn't care about them. Jericho's holding them back, and next week they're trouncing out on their own. They're going to get this shit done on their own, and they don't need Jericho anymore.
This wasn't a bad segment. I think the Inner Circle has run its course. I'm not mad if they disband that. I'm not mad if they take Proud and Powerful and push them out to be more of a face even. Good guys or that middle of the road. You don't know if they're good guy, bad guy, like the anti-hero type thing. Not mad about any of that. Jericho is Jericho. He doesn't need anything. Sammy Guevara's proven himself. He doesn't need anything. Right? He doesn't need the faction anymore. So, and then, what's his name? Fucking dickhead that stands in the back and never does anything. Who's the other guy in Inner Circle? Jake Hager.
Jake Hager, yeah.
He don't need. I mean, he needs him, but nobody cares. Nobody notices if he leaves, anyways.
No, you got Sammy Guevara is going to be in a program with Cody Rhodes. Seemingly, it seems like that'll be for a while, unless they just end it after one match. Proud and Powerful were just basically under a fire blanket for the past year or so. Nobody even knew they existed. So yeah, it's time. It's time to break up the Inner Circle and let them do their own thing, and let Jericho kind of search around for the next possible successful group or person to leech off of.
Sure, he can even put together a new version of Inner Circle and kick them out and pull a new tag team in. I think that'd be just fine. He could rebuild it, and it can be done. We just talked about factions earlier, and they rebuilt the Four Horsemen 16 times. So who cares?
Go for it. But we got my favorite backstage interviewer, Alex Marvez, is in the back with Adam Cole, Bebe, and we see that we tried to have a match with Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy. We tried to put on a match that actually had rules and regulations and tags and whatnot, and clearly, if you watch that match, you saw they cannot handle it. So next week at Beach Break, it's Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy in a no disqualification, no rules, lights out match, aka lazy booking.
I hate the lights out thing. So because they turn the lights off and back on, it's not part of an AEW show, because technically the show's ended because you shut the lights off. But your commentators stay working. You're still selling your merchandise. Like, I get it. I understand what it is. I was never under the assumption that it was really, like, unsanctioned. You're still going to have an AEW referee in there. But, like, it's... No, why don't you just call it no rules? Why did the lights out thing? Or... Old school Memphis wrestling that, like, sticks to it because that was what they did, like, back in, Memphis or back in Tennessee or the Carolinas or something with... Like, that was old school territory thing. The lights out match.
Yeah, Tony Khan loves to pick and choose what he takes out of classic wrestling, but he never chooses taking the wrestling from classic wrestling. He just wants the dog collar matches, the no lights matches.
They could at least wrestle with no lights. When I first heard they were going to have a lights out match, I thought it was just going to be like a literal dark style match, and they're just going to beat the hell out of each other in the dark. Like, that could maybe be interesting.
Yeah, who do we see at that bar in Detroit? Like Juventud Guerrero or somebody fight with no lights? Well, we all had flashlights.
Super crazy.
Super crazy. Yeah, same guy.
Andrew pops in the chat again and says, or is this just called a hardcore match? And that's what we were just saying. Like, I think it is just a hardcore match. No rules.
And then we get a video package, Brian, and we'll find out what a letdown and waste of time this was. We get a whole ass video package for CM Punk and Aries Spears here. So, and so we got the big hoopla. We got, after CM Punk's big entrance, we get MJF making his big entrance, coming down on commentary, adjusting his headphones, getting ready to jaw jack and put his spin on this match here, and I'll let you take the lead on this one, Brian. How did this match go? We got CM Punk and Shawn Spears.
This opened up with a collar and elbow tie-up into a go-to-sleep and a 1-2-3.
Right. So, before we dive into this is where I'm confused. This is where I don't get the fans of today. And please, if anyone can explain it in a matter that's not just, oh, this, you'd want it to be 1985, you want it to be NWA, you want it to be Mid-South. If someone can explain this coherently. We were just forced to watch Adam Cole, Britt Baker, Chris Statlander, and Orange Cassidy completely stumble and bumblefuck their way through a comedy match for 20 minutes. We were promised since last week a CM Punk match with Shawn Spears, who does know how to work. But instead, we get a 15-second match with two moves, that being a tie-up and a GTS, and the crowd is all in. They are popping and absolutely loving it. How does this compute? You get a match that absolutely was in shambles for 20 minutes, and then you get a 15-second CM Punk match. Their biggest star in the company gives you 15 seconds, and the crowd's like, this is a great show. This is how a show should be formatted.
Yeah. And the Andrew pops in the chat again and says the video package longer than the actual match itself. It was the way it was, too. Yeah, I saw it coming because really they just shit on Shawn Spears. And, I mean, I'm not a Shawn Spears guy by any means, but he doesn't get any love at all in the company. He's a bottom-of-the-barrel guy. He's in this faction because they need somebody like that. They've got your main star. You've got your tag team. Supposedly FTR is still in AEW, I believe. And you've got your bodyguard, Wardlow style. And they got your Shawn Spears jobber fella. And it's like, you just saw it coming because last week was so hard of a match for MJF. For CM Punk. It was so hard of a match for CM Punk that this had to be an easier one. Because it just had to yin-yang back and forth. Because they were so much like, how's CM Punk going to feel after that match from last week? How's he going to be? What's it going to be like? And then he goes out there and smokes him. So they were setting it up to be like that. Do I think it was appropriate? Meh. Could they have done some of this? Could they have got out of this another way? Sure. Could he have still beat the shit out of him? Yeah. Like, he could have still dominated the match, right? He could have done what Wardlow did to him. So he could have gave him 6 go-to-sleeps, and he could have, kept the match going and toyed with him and taunted MJF with him. I think that's the way it should have went.
Yeah, and from a booking standpoint, and I believe CM Punk's involved in his own booking, and it does make sense when you explain it like that. But I'm kind of looking at it as a wrestling fan that was at the show and spent, say, $100 on the ticket. The majority of my $100 would be I get to see fucking CM Punk in a match live and in person.
And it's 10 seconds.
And then you get that. Yeah.
Like, imagine this. Here's Brian's booking out of his ass. They do a Shawn Spears CM Punk match. CM Punk is dominating the entire match. He's toying with him. He's beating the hell out of him. He draws MJF from commentary, by holding his boy essentially hostage in the ring by never going for the pin, right? And just beating him. MJF goes to cheat to hit CM Punk, but in turn hits Shawn Spears, and CM Punk still wins by MJF hitting Shawn Spears or doing something to Shawn Spears, right? I think there's something there. You could put some tension back in between the midst of everybody on the bad guy side. The good guy got away with one, blah, 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 blah. At least it would have gave you some time in the ring and then got to see him interact with MJF as well.
Again,
20 seconds of non-thinking.
You
came up with a better idea.
Out of your butt. Right.
And didn't even rewrite it where I could probably make it better eventually, right? 2 or 3 drafts out.
But we only give them 10 seconds because it's like, give CM Punk a light week, And then we want to give 20 minutes to Cassidy, and we want to make sure we have time to watch Layla Hirsch beat up somebody who's already been in a match.
Sure.
So we get to the only entertaining part of this segment. MJF ending up in the ring, Punk grabbing him by the scarf, and we're in anticipation right now. We're thinking MJF is finally catching his dues, and CM Punk finally gets his hands on him. But MJF bails out of the ring, leaving his scarf behind, and we get CM Punk with a modeling his knife's little
Burberry.
what's that brand called? Burberry scarf there.
Yeah, the nice Burberry scarf fitting CM Punk's, rancid hoodies and tore up jeans that he likes to wear. Fit right into his wardrobe. Yeah, they could have cut 2 backstage segments and made this match longer that they didn't have to go to, right?
Yeah, they only had 37 backstage segments. They could have cut it down to 34, and we would have got a decent match out of this.
Speaking of backstage segments, I'm going to guess we go to one here because we seem to go to one after every match.
We certainly do, Brian, and this one's a barn burner right here because Billy Gunn has commandeered a camera in the back, and he sees Christian Cage coming into the building fashionably late. Billy Gunn mentions that Austin and Colton Gunn are in the top 5 in the rankings of tag team wrestling, and they want a shot at the tag team titles. Again, we visited this last week. How do these rankings work? Are they all based on Rampage and YouTube shows? Because I can't remember last time I saw the Gun Club wrestle, but they're in the top 5. The Acclaimed are number 1.
Well,
it just makes no sense.
Here's the other thing, is when did Christian become the spokesman for Jurassic Express? And why weren't Jurassic Express there? Why?
Precisely.
Why wouldn't you challenge a tag team? Why would you challenge their friend?
Well, because if you challenge a tag team, the segment couldn't happen, Brian. You couldn't have Christian blow Billy Gunn off and then have Christian get jumped by all 3 members of the Gun Club.
Andrew says he's in one of the top 5 tag teams as well, so just keep your eye out for him. He's popping up in the rankings there. He's moving up the rankings.
Just him.
A couple more posts in our chat here, and you'll be moving right up the rankings there.
Yeah. Now we get an in-ring segment, Brian, and we've got Cody coming out in a shit brown suit, and he's here to talk, and he's here to drop his own little pipe bombs.
All right. So he comes out, and they instantly basically go right to commercial when he gets in the ring, right?
Can we talk about this commercial?
Yes, we have to.
All right, thank God. I thought you were going to skip right past it.
So they go to commercial. Well, I don't know if I'm going to talk about the same thing, but they go to commercial, and they leave the picture-in-picture on. So the picture-in-picture during a wrestling match, you know nothing's going to happen. They've got word to the ref. We're going to commercial. This is the time that you take a headbutt off of you take a head spot to the chair or to the stairs outside, right? Or you do something and you roll your ankle and you have to lay around for a minute and a half. Why they kept picture-in-picture going with an interview segment getting ready to get set up is beyond me. Cody Rhodes is wandering around the ring, lifting up the aprons, looking for something, can't find it, finally finds a ladder, has a hell of a time getting out this giant ladder because the ring is too close to the barricade, so it's jammed in there sideways. And then he's trying to move this 32-foot ladder by himself. He couldn't get it into the ring. He couldn't set it up. Why are we watching this?
Well, I wasn't watching that, Brian. Everything you just said, I didn't see because I was watching the commercial for the TBS show Big Show.
Yes, I did see this as well, and this is a gentleman who took a 2x4 to the nuts.
He took whatever those ropes are called, those workout ropes,
battle
to
ropes.
The nuts. Took battle ropes to the nuts in multiple ways. And there's a movie. It's an older movie, Brian, and the premise of the movie is how for hundreds of years only the stupidest people in the world reproduced. And their form of TV now, their favorite show on TV is called Ow My Balls, and the entire show is just people getting hit in the balls. And this just clicked. It just opened up that that suppressed memory in my head, and that's what we're getting to. We got an entire ass commercial of a guy saying "ow my balls," and that's entertainment now.
Yes.
That
I couldn't stop watching Cody Rhodes wander around and look for the ladder under the ring. It was driving me nuts why they kept this picture in picture. But anyways, we finally leave this advertisement for the Go Big Show. Cody Rhodes finally has a ladder in the ring, and he is there set up ready to drop his own version of the pipe bomb.
right, and we first thing I notice here is Cody Rhodes has a TNT belt, but so does Sammy Guevara. So the first thing is there's two champions, and let's revisit this whole skit right here. Cody Rhodes got COVID or was exposed to COVID or something like
Sure.
that. If you're vaccinated, you're only have to quarantine for 5 days. Why did we have a whole ass storyline for an interim TNT championship when Cody only had to be gone for 5 days?
I think they were in panic
No
mode.
battle of the belts could happen.
Yeah, I think it was the Battle of the Belts thing. And so part of that also rolls into, again, Andrew was texting me about this last night, as he's termed it, the TYT, the 10-year-old Tony booking. He is going for his version, as he puts here in the chats, TYT time, baby. 10-year-old Tony watching HBK and Razor at WrestleMania 10, his own Who's the Real Champ ladder match. So he's putting together that 2 Intercontinental title, 2 TNT championships, put them both on there. Who's the undisputed champion? Because he's just remember, Sammy Guevara is just the interim champion, while the champion was out of commission.
Well, all this was only booked because Cody had to quarantine for 5 to 10 days.
Yes.
And now it's turned into a whole 10-year-old Tony booking. I think he just saw that door open. Cody had to be absent for a week.
Let's book it.
And Tony's like, oh my God, I can get my Shawn and Razor.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get the Shawn and Razor. I think you're going to get a decent match, though. You're putting two professionals in the ring. I think you're going to get something good. You have the possibility of getting something good. I mean, you could AEW all over this thing and make it not good, but you have the possibility of Sammy Guevara, a ladder. He'll jump off of it and flip off of anything. And clearly, Cody Rhodes will, take a backdrop through, a table with 7 gallons of gas on it that his wife pours on there. So who knows what they'll be willing to do. It could be interesting.
Yeah, but
the question
to get
is
to the speech itself. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the question is Cody loves a TNT championship match at 9 o'clock. Because Cody has stuff to do at 10 o'clock. He can't be wrestling until 10 o'clock, fighting in these main events and such. Now, Sammy Guevara likes to defend his TNT championships in the main event. So, when is this thing going down?
Yeah, that will be the question of the evening, Brian. But to get to the substance of this pipe bomb speech by Cody here, we got Cody licking the fans' balls for a while, Cody licking CM Punk's balls for a minute here, all to the tune of the crowd chanting, "Shut the fuck up," to old Cody Rhodes here.
Yes. Cody sucks, shut the fuck up, and Royal Rumble were some of the chants that were being chanted at him.
These fans are just obnoxious.
They really want him to turn heel. They want to hate him so much so he'll turn heel so they can like him. The irony.
And you got him crying in the ring saying, I won't turn heel because you guys all cheered for me when I needed it the most. And we learned that everyone's talking about the forbidden door, but Cody built the forbidden door, Brian. And I think maybe that was him poking the bear right there, just dipping his toes in the heel water, but still just, I don't know, being Cody.
Babyface all day. I think him being heel will be him not being heel. You can't be a heel because as soon as you're a heel, they'll like you. Then you're a face again. So to be a heel, he has to stay babyface. It's a real conundrum that he's worked himself into here.
It's the Kurt Angle.
Yes.
You know, Kurt Angle has tried so hard to be a babyface and talk about how good of a person he is and how he's the Olympic champion, and everyone hated him for it.
Yeah.
Right. It's
then
the Cody Angle.
And then they liked him so much that they chanted "You sucked" at him in unanimous fashion and popped when his music came on so they could all chant "You sucked." But so it was like that the Kurt Angle thing was a real Kobayashi Maru there. They didn't know how to get out of that one. Same thing with John Cena seen this, and now we see it with Cody Rhodes.
Right, and I guess Cody is anyone yelling for him is good news, I guess.
Sure.
Cody refers to the Gunther controversy. Speaking of, because of Brody King coming in, and a lot of people getting their feathers all ruffled because they have another wrestler coming in named Brody and thinking they maybe should have changed his name. But Cody said they're not in that business of Gunther McBillabuddy or whatever. Cody refers to Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish as developmental, saying he doesn't need to see the Young Bucks beating developmental talent again.
They passed hip toss 101 or whatever it was. He shits on him. Yeah, he took a shot at him, but I think it's all biz. It's a way of being a heel because now he's shit on the guys that people are popping for. He's being a heel in disguise. He's a sheep wearing wolf's clothing, right? Or a wolf wearing sheep's clothing.
Yeah, he's I guess a genius in some ways because he just screams, "I'm a babyface, I'm a babyface, I'm a babyface," but then shits on two of the most talented guys to ever grace the AEW mat. They should all be bowing down to Kylo and Bobby and asking them for lessons after the tapings.
Kylo. Yeah. So this was not quite the pipe bomb that CM Punk dropped. This was more of an M80, maybe a firecracker of likes. This was
a little black cat.
A bottle rocket with no report. It didn't pop at the end. It just whistled. That was it. So yeah, that's where I put this one here. I don't necessarily give it the pipe bomb.
And the long and short of it is Cody and Sammy will have a ladder match at Beach Break to find out who is the real TNT champion.
Cody Rhodes, you're not the real TNT champion. I'm the real TNT champion. Sammy Guevara is my long joke there. I'll explain to you guys another day. Now, what the hell happened after this?
We're going backstage, Brian.
Of course we are. Son of a bitch, they got to get that 96-foot ladder out of the ring. Probably took 4 guys.
And speaking of real champions, we got the real TBS champion, Brian. The champion of That Bitch show, Jade Cargill, is there with her lawyer, Mark something.
Smart Mark Sterling.
We get a nice cringy promo with John Silver being the mouthpiece for Anna Jay here, saying that she has 24-inch arms, referring to her as Anna Hungy. And Anna pipes in there and mentions how I wrapped barbed wire around my arm just to win a match.
Oh.
And it just comes off so fake, so cringy. And Jade Cargill doesn't help at all. She just stands there trying to look menacing in the most fake way possible and says that this is That Bitch show, TBS.
Yeah, I don't think she realizes that's the channel. The show is Dynamite. The channel is TBS. But we'll cross that bridge another day. We'll explain how cable channels work to her another time. I went and put my dishes away after I was done eating dinner when this part came on. I said I'll go ahead and put my dishes in the sink here, and I'll clean and tidy up a wee bit. That's where I was at during this, not even match, this promo.
Yeah, and then we do get into a match here, and another match that could have had some promising aspects to it. Something I would have been interested in watching if it was booked correctly, but instead we get Brody King and Malachi Black taking on the Varsity Blondes, and it just ended up being a complete squash match. just so we can get get the spotlight on Brody King for a minute and see what he's all about, and see that the family Black or whatever have truly affected the Varsity Blondes. They've kind of lost their groove, and that was that. Complete squash.
Complete squash. I still think that they should have had the Varsity Blondes should have been slowly brought over to become heels, changed their gimmick, dyed their hairs black after they got spit in the face in their eyes and the face with the black mist, and then they could have been their version of the Ministry of Darkness, like right when the Undertaker would turn the acolytes and he turned Midian, and he made all these guys become new characters, right? They could have gave them some new weird names. The House of Black name, your House of Black name is whatever, and could have changed their whole gimmick and done something different. But instead, now they're just poor jobbers that aren't gonna ever be on TV again. Go back to dark. They could have at least been in the House of Black and been jobbers in a faction.
They could have, they would have, but yeah, instead we'll see them on
Elevation.
AEW Dark and Elevation. Then we get a little video package popping up on the screen, surprising the hell out of Malachi here, and it's Pac. And Pac's got his bird brain bandages over his eyes here, and somehow he edited a hell of a video together. Pac did.
Said bird brain. Did you mean Bird Box?
I did mean Bird Box.
The guy who put this together had a bird brain, because why Malachi Black was surprised that he was there with his bird brain bandana over his eyes is beyond me, because he did the same promo last week on the show.
Right.
So Malachi Black doesn't watch Dynamite is what is being said here. I mean, the ratings would be that much higher if Malachi Black would get TNT on his cable package. But he doesn't, so he can't watch. The House of Black doesn't have cable. They're streaming only, and TNT doesn't have a streaming option.
He should have got Sling Blue. Instead, he bought Sling Orange, and he doesn't get that TBS option, apparently.
Eric will share his password with you.
So Pac is challenging Malachi Black, and we just get I'd love to see these two just shouting promos at each other in the ring, because we're not going to understand any of it. It's gonna be like an Andrade segment.
Yeah. And then that was that. It was a weird segment. Pac's coming back. His eyes feel better, and they're going to wrestle Malachi Black eventually, I guess.
So, yeah, and that kind of takes away from a whole possibility of, because I still feel that what's the cheerleader's name from Varsity Blondes?
Julia Hart.
Yeah, Julia Hart. I still feel that she may end up in the House of Black. So it was that tease that getting spit in the face with the black mist may convert you, but Pac just threw that all out the window because he took off his bird box bandages, and now he wants nothing to do except fight Malachi Black.
Right. The best part is Julia Hart can heal better and is a stronger person than Pac, because she got spit in the eyes like 2 weeks ago, and she's back rip roaring, ready to go, taking on managing her Varsity Blondes out there. And Pac's been tied up in a basement with his bird brain bandages on his eyes for about a month and a half now, and just can't get past it. He's got playing cards. He just can't pass the time with anything else. Andy says Pac versus Black in a shack sounds whack.
Special referee Shaq. He's gonna pop out of an ambulance.
He's coming back. Oh shit!
Guess who's back? Shaq is back.
Back again. All right, where are we going now?
Speaking of guess who's back, last week we got the return of Lance Archer. This week we get the return of his manager, none other than Jake the Snake Roberts, and now Jake Roberts and Dan Lambert are co-managing Lance Archer here.
Well,
it's a team effort.
We get Jake the Snake back in a pre-taped backstage segment. Jake gets lost on his way to the ring when Lance Archer does come out. Jake couldn't make it to the ring, but Danny Lamb makes his way out.
Yeah, I think Jake's over at Diamond Dallas Page's house, probably. Maybe getting back into shape. And but yeah, we get Frankie Kazarian taking on Lance Archer. and with Lambert and Jake Roberts here.
Poor Kaz. He is just pushed down. Kaz was never going to be the guy in any company. He's just a good worker, good wrestler, but now he's the new Brooklyn Brawler. Like, it's just what he's pushed down to be. Remember during the summer when he was the Elite Hunter? Like, that could have been a... But I
completely forgot about that gimmick, and I think so did everyone else.
Not even shitting on it. Like, it could have been a good gimmick. They could have worked the angle where, it wouldn't have lasted long. But, like, they didn't even do that right. And then he left, and now he just comes back, and he's just Kaz. Frankie Kazarian. He's got Kaz on his boots, and there he goes. He's going to fight Lance Archer. Gee, do you think he'll win? Do you think he'll beat Lance Archer in Lance Archer's second debut back while he has a championship match against Hangman Adam Page? Yeah, I think Kaz has got this one wrapped in the books, folks.
And so you were more into the Ring of Honors, the indie scene, a lot more than I was back in the day. How long was SCU a pretty big gimmick on the scene?
Shit.
Years,
yeah,
right?
I'd say at least, good solid 2 years of being SCU, like, hardcore. Like, this is the worst town I've ever been in, and they'd shit all over him, Scorpio Sky, and SCU later, and all that shit, right? And everybody chanting it. When we went to All In Chicago before AEW was even born, that was 2018?
Right.
So we're already at 2021, right? And that was 2018, 19, 20, 20. So it's like, that was like just a couple years. And they were popular before that. So, years.
So even if Christopher Daniels, because he's in his mid-50s now, not hating on him for taking a step back, but just think if we just would have kept SCU going, Scorpio Sky would be in a lot better place. Frankie Kazarian would be in a lot better place. And hell, you take Christopher Daniels out and you put all ego Ethan Page, for Christ's sake. You turn him babyface. And if they would have kept the SCU thing going, I think they would have a pretty nice ride on in front of them. And right now we just instead we get Frankie Kazarian just
floundering,
put in the ring with Lance Archer to make him look good. And then we have Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page just fucking around with dollar store Jim Cornette. And it's just, they're all just treading water.
Trying to find something. It's like, you sons of bitches, just go do what you did that worked so well. Daniels doesn't have to go back in the ring. He could just be the manager guy on the outside. He can't show up on Wednesday nights for fucking 2 hours to do, like, is he that busy? Yeah, I think it would be way better that way, but I'm with you. The Kaz just looks like shit. It sucks for him. He doesn't look like shit. He looks fine, but he's just in a shit spot.
Right, and he is a master of his craft, Frankie Kazarian. That's not news to anybody. He's working his absolute magic, making Lance Archer look fantastic in this match. Kaz is fighting from underneath the entire time. Archer's not selling anything, and Kaz is just making Archer look like an absolute beast. He's making him look like Brock Lesnar out there.
He does. I agree with Andy here in the chat that it went a little long, though. Like, if they're just going to squash him anyways and kind of bury down Kaz, like, why not just go out and just literally, because they already did that, did they already cash in their squash match with CM Punk and Shawn Spears, that they couldn't go out and just squash Kaz?
Oh, we already had 2 squash matches. Just remember the Varsity Blondes just got squashed too.
Like, why not just squash him again? Like, you want to go back to old wrestling, superstars, it worked great. Your superstars squashed the enhancement talent in every match. Like, why not? He's supposed to be the guy for a championship.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one, but just because if Kaz would have just went out there and got laid out, I don't think it would have made Archer anything special.
Sure.
He would be in the same boat as Wardlow, just going out there and squashing. Kaz can work that magic and attempt to come back and get a couple minutes of offense, and then you just realize that Lance Archer's a beast.
I'll give it to you that Kaz is more of a name than who they put Wardlow against, right, for squash matches, so it makes sense. I mean, I see what you're saying, but it's just, they're just going to shit on him anyways. It's like just rip the Band-Aid off and everybody go get catering and go home.
Right. And let me see where I'm here. Oh, another, I didn't want to fail to mention this one. We're getting a little egregious with the F-bombs here as Lance Archer, he's playing pretty good heel here. He teases throwing his shirt in the crowd, ends up just throwing it on the floor. He's got Kaz in the corner, and he asks the crowd if they want him to hit Kaz again. The crowd responds affirmatively that they want Archer to hit Kaz again, and instead Archer just screams, "Fuck you," to the crowd, and that also makes the air. And this thing's running live, but they are on a delay. They could bleep these F-bombs if they want, but I think they're just testing those waters.
Why not see what happens, see what the crowd says, see what the internet says, see what the advertisers say, see what TBS and Turner says to them, why not? Just a couple of F-bombs, never hurt nobody.
And then we get to the end of this match here. Lance Archer obviously wins this match, wins it with a blackout. Adam Page comes out, and we're getting a little face-to-face with Adam Page and Lance Archer here. And then, for some reason, I don't know what the point of this booking was, Adam Page just beats the shit out of Lance Archer. And Lance Archer just leaves with his tail between his legs.
Well, they tried to sell that with the commentators saying, like, Dan Lambert talking some sense into his guy, saying, you don't fight him for free. This is a big match. You don't put your health on the line for this. Dan Lambert pulling his guy out. We don't do this for free. We want a title shot if we're fighting him. Blah blah blah.
I guess I understand the attempt there, but we just spent 10 to 15 minutes of Kaz's life trying to make Lance Archer look like Brock Lesnar, and we get Lance Archer just leaving like El Gigante. Just battered and beaten and walking away.
In the defense of that as well, you want your champion to look really good, though, too. So they have to make the champion, and they're really trying to make him and beef up Hangman, too, and really get people to believe in him. I think we're losing the believability of Mr. Hangman.
Do you think it could be his pale skin, Smokey in the Bandit t-shirt, and frilly Andre vest?
His Andre the Giant fringy vest.
From 1973.
Yeah. I want the alcoholic Hangman back.
There we go. The Hangman that can do a Canadian destroyer and not spill a drop of whiskey out of his glass. We get another backstage segment, Brian. We got Chris Statlander. It's been an hour and a half since her match, and she's just holding her head. Looks like she took her contacts out, and she looks like a real human being at this point. Tony Schiavone asked her a question, and she just rolls her eyes at him. Layla Hirsch comes out, and they have some sort of beef going on from their match on Rampage.
Yeah, they lost a tag team match of some kind.
And Layla Hirsch attacks Red Velvet and then directly attacks Chris Statlander, and thanks to excrement here, puts Chris Statlander in a Juji Katami.
Yes, I also just know that as an armbar, but
not in the excrement world, Brian. That's a Juji Katami, and don't you forget it.
I'll plan on forgetting it, and we'll just call it an armbar like everybody else does. Turn on any MMA and listen to Joe Rogan scream, "You've got an arm." He's got him in an armbar. He didn't ever have him in a Kuji Kakami. The Konami
at
code.
This point, up, down, left, right, A, B, start. I'm starting to lose interest at point in this show, Brian. I am checking out. Our next segment here, we got Serena Deeb defeating Sky Blue. If you watch this, did anything happen?
No, it was a squash.
Oh, okay. So that's 3 squash matches we had.
They squashed the shit out of it.
We do get a challenger. I was wondering if it was in my notes here. We do get a challenger. It is an hour and a half after Moxley made his back and forth speech. But Ethan Page apparently wants his shot at Jon Moxley.
Who cares?
Exactly. Another backstage segment. We've got Team Hardy, and then we've got Andrade kind of standing around. Andrade's rubbing his hands together because he's a greedy businessman, and Matt Hardy's a snake, and just completely complicated, convoluted, doesn't make any sense, and nobody cares. But apparently, Andrade owns 51% of the Hardy family. Matt Hardy owns 49, but Matt Hardy's crew takes 3 of the 5 seats in the board and helps make the decisions, and they're renaming it the Andrade Hardy Family Values or whatever.
Family office or family HFO. It was like Hardy Family Office or something like that. Yeah, and he's the president, but Hardy's gonna be the CEO. Again,
Who cares?
Again, like, this is the goofiest shit. It's like, and the 3 members of Hardy that get to hold the chairs are Private Party and Matt Hardy. It's like, what? Like, there's nobody in it. What about Butcher and the Blade standing back there with Bunny? They stood up on the top of the stairs. Go back and rewatch it. Like, they were sitting there like, just standing there staring off into space like, what are we a part of?
I feel for Butcher and the Blade, and if I own a business, Brian, I don't care if you call it the Andrade Hardy Family Values Tour. 2 of the 5 board members are guys in leopard leather pants and vests who do gymnastics for a living. I don't want them making decisions in my business. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, like, they don't need to be doing that with the business. The business. It's just
At least Butcher's in a band and he's got some sort of experience in this thing.
He's not anymore. They've just laid Until I Die down. That band is now no more, and he is a full-time wrestler.
Oh, condolences.
I believe that was the name of it, Until I Die or Before I Die, or somebody died. I don't know.
I don't know. He needs to dye his hair. This is our main event, Brian.
I about shit my pants when they said, and now your main event, and then they announced that the Acclaim were coming out.
And I swear these guys listen to our show because I believe you mentioned that usually the Acclaimed at least have one stinger when they come out and they do their little rap. Max Caster doing his rap, and usually they have something that gets attention, but boy, this rap this week was flat as a plate of piss. Their rap stunk. This match stunk. And the beginning was some of the worst booking in professional wrestling history.
What about the beginning where they were dressed up like Sting and Darby, and he was riding the scooter like he was supposed to be Darby Allin on a little kid's scooter, and Sting ran him over with a car. That little skit was kind of funny.
That was kind of funny. You can't lie. But I'm talking about the match and setup itself.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that was garbage.
Yeah. I did watch the Max Caster rap video on YouTube, and it was like, it didn't really deserve the hype that the Acclaimed were putting behind it. Like, this is going to be the hottest thing ever. It was kind of trash, but but it was funny at the same time. But before the bell rings, Brian, we've got the Acclaimed putting Darby Allin's neck into a chair and ramming him into the ring post. So the heels are attempting to paralyze a 125-pound babyface, and it's perfectly fine because the bell hasn't rang yet. The commentators are in on it. The refs are in on it. This is all above board because the bell hasn't rang yet.
I mean, you can only do it. Your hands are tied. There is stuff that you can only do what you can do. Rules are rules, Eric. You can't just change rules. And so then when the bell does ring, unfortunately, Darby can't be there, and now it's a handicap match that Sting's taking on.
Well, I just don't understand. Why are we just trying to break his neck with chairs, like that'll get you a nice 20-year sentence in prison. Why not just shoot them?
Yeah, just murder him right there. Just hang him real quick. You just knew too that this was going to be a setup for him to come back later. That's all it was.
This was gonna be ugh.
He couldn't even walk to get out of there, and in about 10 minutes, he's gonna come flying over the crowd like Superman.
So, like I said, it's all above board because it's before the bell. They're trying to kill Darby Allin. The doctors help Darby out of the arena. Now Sting, this man is a legitimate senior citizen, Brian. He's filled out all his paperwork for the AARP.
Who is this again you were talking about?
Sting. That guy. He gets his coffee for 62 cents at the local diner. He gets senior discounts everywhere he goes. And he is single-handedly picking apart and destroying the number 1 ranked tag team in AEW.
And not even that, just 2 young cats in their mid-20s. They're like jacked. Sting's got bones made of pretzel rods. Like old graham cracker hip Sting is going to get in the ring, and you're just going to believe that he's going to beat up 2, just men with testosterone flowing out of their eyes. He's like, and this guy gets in there, and we got to buy that that's the way it is. That's what's going to happen. The problem I always have with Sting these days is I think Sting is so caught up in his own hype that he believes he's as strong as the character that he plays. So he doesn't have to sell anything. It's easy for him to not sell anything because he doesn't sell anything, and then he just gets to pretend like it doesn't hurt. Luckily, that's his character.
And again, so we're supposed to be okay with this. We're supposed to be okay with attempted murder. We're supposed to be okay with a senior citizen beating up 2 guys in their mid-20s or early 30s who are muscle-bound because wrestling's fake, and we all know it. But we spent 10 minutes listening to Matt Hardy describe a fake business venture with Charlotte's boyfriend. And that's important. We need to believe that.
Yeah. And this is your main event.
Well, Darby Allin makes his return after Sting decimates the Acclaimed here. Darby Allin, after just getting his neck just absolutely twisted like an Auntie Anne's pretzel at the mall, is now pinballing and coffin dropping and code redding all over the Acclaimed.
Yes. He comes flying in, dive bombs the Acclaim on the outside of the ring, goes nuts on him, picks up Sting, throws him in the ring, gets on the apron, stands at the corner, and begs for a tag. Then gets the tag. Now, mind you, both of the Acclaim are still on the outside on the ground. Gets the tag from Sting, climbs up the ropes, and jumps backwards onto the ground to give a coffin drop to the guy. Why he had to be tagged in to do such a move, I will never know.
Gotta follow the rules, Brian.
Now we need rules. If we
need rules because the bell rang.
If we were following the rules, they all should have been counted out about an hour and a half ago.
Is this Bryce Remsburg running the show on this one?
I do not remember who was in there for this one, to be honest with you. It sucked, though. It was just an AEW tag team match. It was just a joke.
And
Sting
again,
and
this crowd has the collective IQ of my shoe size, because the pop that this old crotchety, rickety bone son of a bitch Sting gets for diving off the stage and splashing through Max Caster onto a table. The pop was deafening, and it's what do these people want? These people want this old man to kill himself for a half-ass spot that my fucking my dog could do if you held a treat out. She would jump off the stage and land on a table for you.
See, after I watched this, did a little reading on the inner tubes, and put 2 and 2 together, this whole thing goes back to 10-year-old Tony being able to pay homage to Sting getting screwed over at Starrcade in 97 in wherever they were at last night. Where were they at? You remember the city?
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, they got Starrcade 97, I think, was there, and there was a fast count, and then Bret Hart restarted the match, and the whole thing got botched, and the finish was garbage. And this was 10-year-old Tony's way of paying back the city of Washington, D.C. for what Sting got gypped out of in his main event at Starrcade in 97.
All right, fans, here's your challenge. All right, chat, here's your challenge. We need a song made, and the chorus says, TYT AEW Dynamite. TYT. We're booking it right. TYT. 10-year-old Tony, we need his booking. We need his booking every show.
So, yeah, that was what really this whole thing was about, was giving Sting the spotlight in D.C. Are we going to give everybody who got screwed over in a city in the wrestling history their spotlight back for a night?
Sure. Let's bring
Sure.
back let's bring back fucking, I don't know who's still alive. Eddie Graham, or not Eddie Graham. Billy Graham. I'm sure he got screwed over in Tulsa, Oklahoma one time. So we're going to bring back superstar Billy Graham and have him jump off a step stool and shatter his hip just to give him retribution.
Retribution. Yeah, this thing sucked, and then it about wrapped up here about right after that, didn't it?
Yeah, right after the Stinger splash off the stage there, Darby Allin coffee drops onto Bowens here. And he gets the 1, 2, 3. It's a wrap. 16 Canadian destroyers on jobbers. That doesn't put him down. But a 120-pound guy landed on you from 10 feet in the air.
That'll do it every time.
And you're 280 pounds of pure muscle. Out for the count, baby.
Take your Luden's cough drop, and you're off to go, off to the races. Then I think that wraps us up for this episode of the KayFabe Smark podcast. You got anything you want to send us home with before we get all the social plugs and all that nonsense in?
No, that's a wrap. Next week, I believe, is Beach Break or Beach Bash.
Bash at
Bash
the
at the beach.
Yeah, we're going to get
some sort of beach gimmicks going on, so we'll be watching that. And then when's the Rumble? The week after?
Believe so. So we'll make sure we hammer out the Rumble as well and talk about that. And make sure you guys stay tuned to the social media, the TikTok and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Like, subscribe on YouTube, and have some fun with us here and talk some professional wrestling. We go live on Thursdays, and you can hop in the chat and be a part of the fun. And Eric, what do you got to send us home with?
All I got to say, Brian, is for you, Brian Rampa, for the resident snooze and pitbull, Stella Marie, and for myself, Hootie Hoo. We out the gates.